since I was 14 might have some effect to that, and just being in the shadow of my lineage and stuff like that, and trying to find my own purpose.
People barely recognized him when he walked on stage. The internet exploded with comments like "unrecognizable," and "he looks like he dropped a bandmate." Wolfgang Van Halen, the son of legendary guitarist Eddie Van Halen, had always lived under intense scrutiny. Critics called him a nepo baby, threw bottles at him during shows, and questioned whether he deserved his place in rock. But by November 2025, something had changed. During his Las Vegas shows at the House of Blues, fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. Wolfgang had dropped 50 pounds, his face looked sharper, and his stage energy felt completely different. What pushed him to transform himself so dramatically? The answer involves grief, pressure, and a decision that changed everything. When the hate became unbearable. The criticism started long before anyone noticed his weight. When Wolfgang replaced Michael Anthony as Van Halen's bassist in 2006, at just 15 years old, the backlash was instant and brutal. Michael had been with the band for almost 3 decades, carrying the low end and delivering those signature backing vocals that defined Van Halen's sound. Fans loved him. So when Eddie announced that his teenage son would take over, the reaction wasn't just negative, it was vicious. Death threats flooded online forums. Message boards lit up with comments calling Wolfgang talentless, a nepo baby riding his father's coattails, and worse. When the reunion tour kicked off in September 2007 in Charlotte, North Carolina, Wolfgang was 16 years old and stepping onto stages in front of crowds that wanted him to fail. Some nights, people would chant Michael instead of Wolfgang during bass solos. Other nights, bottles flew at him on stage. The humiliation was constant and public, and there was no escape from it. David Lee Roth made everything worse. Roth mocked Wolfgang on YouTube, uploading videos calling him a cringe-worthy nepo baby and questioning whether he belonged in the band. The videos spread fast, fueling the negativity that was already suffocating Wolfgang. Then, Roth took the mockery on tour with him. During concerts, he would dedicate songs to the bassist's son, making sure the crowd turned their attention to Wolfgang for all the wrong reasons. The tension backstage grew thick. Wolfgang was being publicly humiliated by his own frontman, and there was nothing he could do about it. But the pressure didn't just come from strangers and Roth. Wolfgang's entire life had been uprooted. He had to miss his entire 11th grade year to rehearse and tour. Teachers at his school warned Eddie not to pull him out, saying it was the most critical year for college preparation. Eddie ignored them. Some days, Wolfgang rehearsed 18 hours straight while trying to keep up with tutoring on cramped tour buses. He was 16 years old, playing arenas in front of 20,000 people who wanted him to mess up, and he couldn't even go to homecoming or hang out with friends like a normal teenager. The weight of expectation was crushing. He wasn't just representing himself, he was carrying the Van Halen legacy, stepping into shoes that had been filled by a beloved bassist for nearly 30 years. Every note he played was scrutinized. Every mistake was magnified. And physically, the stress was already taking a toll he wouldn't fully address for years. Food became comfort. Late nights on tour buses meant fast food, processed snacks, and whatever was convenient. The habits were forming, but Wolfgang was too focused on survival to notice. The years of proving himself and the moment everything broke. Wolfgang didn't quit. He kept showing up, kept playing, and slowly started to prove that he belonged. The Van Halen reunion tour from 2007 to 2009 was massive, pulling in over $93 million and drawing more than 600,000 fans across 76 shows. Night after night, Wolfgang delivered tight, flawless bass lines that even the harshest critics had to respect. His playing was solid, his rhythm was locked in, and gradually, some of the noise started to quiet down. In 2012, Van Halen released a different kind of truth, their first full album with David Lee Roth in 28 years. Wolfgang co-wrote 3 tracks, including Blood and Fire, which became a fan favorite. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and sold 188,000 copies in its first week. By the end of the year, it had moved over 400,000 copies in the United States alone. Wolfgang was proving that he wasn't just Eddie's son riding the family name. He was a legitimate contributor to the band's sound. That same year, something unexpected happened. Wolfgang got a late-night call from Mark Tremonti while he was hanging out with friends in Sevendust in New Jersey. Tremonti's bassist, Brian Marshall, had quit suddenly, and the tour was about to start. Tremonti asked if Wolfgang could fill in. Wolfgang drove 45 minutes to New York with his bass equipment, walked into 5150 Studios, and learned Tremonti's entire setlist overnight. The next day, they were on tour. Wolfgang stayed with Tremonti for 4 years, becoming an official member in 2013. He played on 2 studio albums, Cauterize in 2015 and Dust in 2016, and performed more than 200 shows with the band. The experience was intense, but it sharpened his skills and proved he could handle pressure from multiple directions at once. Then came October 6, 2020. Eddie Van Halen died after a long battle with cancer. Wolfgang was 29 years old and had spent years by his father's side, on stage and off. When he announced the news on social media, he wrote that Edward Lodewijk Van Halen had lost his long and hard battle that morning and that Eddie had been the best father he could ever ask for. The grief was immediate and overwhelming. Wolfgang had lost his dad, his bandmate, his mentor, and his biggest supporter all at once. Just over a month later, on November 16th, Wolfgang released Distance, a song he had actually written back in 2018 when his father's health was declining. The lyrics came from hospital visits and late-night fears. Lines like "This is not goodbye" were written long before Eddie passed, making the song even more heartbreaking. When it dropped, Distance raced to #1 on Billboard's mainstream rock chart and crossed 10 million streams within weeks. Every dollar Wolfgang made from the song went to charity. But the success didn't ease the pain. Wolfgang was drowning. In a 2025 interview with Metal Hammer, Wolfgang admitted he went through a spiritual crisis that felt like a black hole. He said the pain came every day and changed everything about how he wrote lyrics. Food became comfort again. Touring became exhausting. He stopped looking at himself in mirrors. By 2024, Wolfgang weighed somewhere between 240 and 300 pounds, depending on various reports. He felt trapped in grief and trapped in his own body, struggling to find a way out. The decision that nobody saw coming. Here's what most people don't know. Wolfgang didn't wake up one morning and decide to lose weight because of vanity or public pressure. He made the decision because he was exhausted and scared. In interviews throughout 2025, he opened up about feeling like his body was failing him. Touring meant long hours, physical demands, and constant movement, but he felt sluggish and out of breath. He realized that if he wanted longevity in music, if he wanted to honor his father's legacy by continuing to create, he needed to feel better in his own skin. The motivation wasn't about looking like a rock star, it was about being able to live like one. Wolfgang had watched his father battle health issues for years. He had seen firsthand what happens when the body breaks down, and he didn't want that future for himself. So around mid-2024, Wolfgang started making changes. He didn't hire a celebrity trainer or follow some extreme diet plan sold by influencers. He began eating whole foods, lean proteins and vegetables. He cut out processed snacks and sugary drinks that had been part of his daily routine for years. He started doing high-intensity interval training, weightlifting, and cardio sessions 4 to 5 days a week, fitting workouts into his chaotic touring schedule. It wasn't easy. Some days he was on the road, living out of hotels and tour buses where healthy options were limited. But he adapted. He practiced portion control and even tried intermittent fasting to boost his metabolism. He tracked his meals and made sure he was eating smaller portions throughout the day to keep his energy up during long performances. But the biggest shift wasn't physical, it was mental. Wolfgang started working with therapists and practicing meditation to understand his emotional relationship with food. He recognized that his eating habits were tied to grief, stress, and the pressure of being constantly judged. He had used food as a coping mechanism after his father's death, and he needed to address that root cause before he could heal physically. This is the part that most weight loss stories skip over. But for Wolfgang, it was everything. He talked openly about how he had to unlearn the idea that burning out equals success. For years, he had pushed himself to the limit, ignoring his body's signals because that's what touring demanded. But now, he was learning to set boundaries. Less screen time, more sleep, mental breaks during tours. He stopped reading negative comments online and focused on surrounding himself with people who supported his goals. His wife, Andrea Alsop, whom he married in October 2023, played a huge role in keeping him grounded. Wolfgang later shared that her support helped him handle the stress of recording his third album while also managing his health transformation. Nothing about the process was fast. It was steady, patient, and private. Wolfgang didn't post daily updates on social media or turn his journey into a publicity campaign. He just quietly did the work, day after day, even when progress felt slow. And that consistency is what made the difference. The transformation that broke the internet. By November 2025, the results were undeniable. Wolfgang had dropped approximately 40 to 50 pounds, going from somewhere between 240 and 265 pounds down to roughly 190 to 215 pounds, depending on the source. When Mammoth performed at the House of Blues in Las Vegas on November 1st, fans started posting photos and videos online. The comments exploded almost immediately. One Reddit post jokingly said he looked like he dropped a bandmate. Another called him unrecognizable. His face looked sharper, his jawline was defined, and his movements on stage felt bigger and more confident. The energy was completely different. Wolfgang wasn't hiding behind his bass or standing in shadows anymore. He was owning the stage, commanding attention in a way that felt new. Photos from the Las Vegas show went viral within hours. Fan pages started comparing old images to new ones, and the contrast was shocking. People who had criticized his weight for years were now praising his dedication. Others expressed genuine surprise, not because they doubted he could do it, but because the change was so dramatic and so visible. But Wolfgang was careful about how he responded to the praise. In one interview, he made it clear that he didn't want people to think he loved himself now because he was thinner. He said he loved himself because he took care of himself. That distinction mattered deeply to him. The transformation wasn't about validation from strangers or proving critics wrong. It was about reclaiming control over his life and his health. It was about choosing to live fully instead of just surviving. The physical changes were obvious, but the emotional transformation was even more profound. Wolfgang talked about feeling more energized, more confident, and more in tune with his body than ever before. He could keep up with the grueling demands of touring without feeling exhausted halfway through a set. He could move around on stage without feeling self-conscious. And most importantly, he felt like himself again for the first time since his father's death. His wife Andrea had been with him through the hardest parts of the journey, and Wolfgang credited her with helping him stay on track when motivation dipped. Recording his third album, The End, while also managing his weight loss transformation was stressful. There were days when he wanted to quit, when the scale didn't move, when old habits tried to creep back in, but having someone in his corner who believed in him made all the difference. The music that mirrored the transformation. The physical transformation coincided with a creative explosion. Wolfgang's band, now simply called Mammoth after dropping the WVH in 2025, released The End on October 24th. The album climbed to number 3 on the US hard rock charts and showcased a heavier, darker sound that reflected both his grief and his growth. The title track's music video, directed by Robert Rodriguez and Greg Nicotero, featured Wolfgang alongside Danny Trejo, Miles Kennedy, and his mother Valerie Bertinelli. It crossed 5 million views within weeks of release. The second single, The Spell, topped the Czech rock charts and gathered over 6 million views on YouTube. Critics praised the album for its raw emotion and technical precision, noting that Wolfgang had evolved significantly as a songwriter. The End wasn't just another rock album, it was a statement. It was Wolfgang processing pain, loss, and transformation through music, and fans could feel every ounce of that emotion in the songs. The End tour ran from March through April 2026, covering 19 dates across North America. The tour moved through Buffalo, Toronto, Montreal, Atlantic City, Knoxville, Grand Rapids, and Cincinnati, with bands like 10 Years and James and the Cold Gun joining as support. Wolfgang also performed at festivals throughout the year and opened for major acts like Seether and Creed during the summer months. Each show became a celebration not just of new music, but of Wolfgang's complete reinvention. Fans who came expecting to see Eddie's son left talking about Wolfgang as his own artist. His stage presence was commanding. His vocals were powerful and confident, and physically, he looked like someone who had fought hard and won. During interviews promoting The End, Wolfgang talked openly about his weight loss journey, emphasizing consistency over quick fixes. He wanted people to understand that his success wasn't about extremes or shortcuts. It was about sustainable habits and addressing the mental and emotional roots of unhealthy patterns. Wolfgang also hinted that more music was coming. He revealed plans to release unreleased tracks from the 5150 archives, songs his father Eddie had recorded that had never been heard publicly. The announcement became one of the most anticipated releases in rock for 2026, giving fans a chance to hear something precious and hidden for years. Why this story matters more than you think. Wolfgang Van Halen's transformation isn't just a celebrity weight loss story that'll fade into the background noise of entertainment news. It's a lesson in perseverance, healing, and taking control when everything feels out of reach. For years, Wolfgang lived under crushing expectations. He was judged for his name, his talent, his appearance, and his right to exist in his father's world. The hate was relentless. Bottles were thrown, insults were shouted, online trolls made cruel jokes about his weight. And then his father died, and the grief nearly destroyed him. But instead of giving up, Wolfgang made a choice. He decided that honoring his father's legacy meant more than just playing music. It meant living fully, healthily, and authentically. The 50-pound weight loss was a byproduct of that deeper decision. It wasn't about vanity. It wasn't about proving critics wrong or silencing the haters. It was about survival and self-worth. It was about looking in the mirror and recognizing himself again. By 2025, Wolfgang had silenced the doubters, not by arguing with them, but by showing up, doing the work, and delivering music that stood on its own. When his debut album Mammoth by Vive H dropped in June 2021, it hit #1 on Billboard's top rock albums, hard rock albums, and independent albums charts. It reached #12 on the Billboard 200, a rare achievement for a debut rock album in 2021. Wolfgang wrote every song and played every instrument on the album, showcasing talents that went far beyond what anyone expected. His Grammy nomination for Distance in 2022 proved that his work resonated beyond nostalgia or family name recognition. The nomination came from Explorer One Music Group's first ever nomination, and Wolfgang reacted with genuine surprise, posting wholly on social media when the news broke. Distance had tied a record by matching Gloria's Sons for the most consecutive #1s from a debut album. Then Don't Back Down climbed to #1 too, cementing Wolfgang's place as a legitimate force in modern rock. His second album, Mammoth 2, released in August 2023, performed even better than the debut. It hit #1 on the UK Rock Albums chart and climbed into the top 10 in Scotland. Another celebration at the end of the world, shot up to number 7 on the mainstream rock tracks chart. The pink cassette edition sold 50,000 copies and became a collector's item. Reviews kept pointing out how much heavier and darker the music sounded compared to the first album, with songs like Right and Better Than You carrying a sharper edge that reflected Wolfgang's emotional evolution. But perhaps the most unexpected moment came in 2023, when Wolfgang played guitar on Just Ken for the Barbie soundtrack. Mark Ronson wanted him specifically for the mammoth guitar tone he could create. Wolfgang added both soft textures and a wild solo, while Slash joined him for the final parts. The song exploded everywhere, crossing 500 million streams and reaching the Billboard Hot 100. Fans who once called him a nepo baby now call him an inspiration. People who struggled with their own weight, grief, or self-image found hope in his story. Wolfgang's openness about mental health, therapy, and the emotional side of transformation helped others see that healing isn't linear and that progress matters more than perfection. He showed that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. And that strength resonated with people far beyond the rock community. What do you think about Wolfgang Van Halen's shocking transformation? Share with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. For more interesting stories like this, be sure to click on the next video that pops up on your screen. You never know what you'll discover next.